All right. Esther and Brandy, they took off to do some shopping for Esther, clothing for high school. Esther's wardrobe, as it was in transit from China. And so the first shopping experience, Brandy thought Esther should go to a strip mall. And there they went up and down the different stores. They bought some blue jeans. They both bought blue jeans. And they went into a shoe store. Lots and lots of shoes. Esther bought some shoes, practical ones for school. And shoes might be considered something that Esther actually loves, because she bought 6 pairs. She bought some that were a little bit more rugged too, for outdoor use. And so after the strip mall, Brandy said, let's go to the Wilson-Barnett shopping mall. It's a little bit upscale, but they have wonderful clothes. And so they took off for the Wilson-Barnett Mall, and it was very large. They found a place to park, fortunately, right away, and it was outside of one of the entryways. And so they had quite a large center, open area. And Esther and Brandy walked around quite a bit and settled on a store, Polos for Women. Very ornate, beautiful store. At the entry door, they had a bust of Marco Polo. And Esther, surprisingly, to her aunt, said that she had actually studied some photos of Marco Polo, and that the bust seemed very accurate to what he actually looked like. He had obviously gone to China and started trade with China, so Esther knew quite a bit about Marco Polo. They went inside, browsed around quite a bit, and Esther checked prices on a lot of different dresses. And she said, she said to her Aunt Brandy, it's not that I can't afford these, but I don't feel like I really need to spend this much money yet on school clothing. So as they were looking around, they did find a bargain rack. Esther pulled out a dress that was marked down 60% off, I believe it was. And Aunt Brandy said, oh, that would look so beautiful on you. So Esther tried it on, and they decided to purchase it. It really was something that might be used for one of the high school dances. So they decided to do just slightly more browsing before leaving. And Esther noticed a young girl in Gothic dress that was being followed by one of the store personnel, suspecting her perhaps of shoplifting. The girl got a phone call and became very excited. So she ran out of the door. She ran to the exit door and ran out, and the store detective followed her real quick. Esther decided to follow along too, and at the outside exit, the store detective yelled at the girl to stop, but she couldn't hear him. There was a loud car with some loud music playing, driving by as she ran out to the parking lot. And so he pulled a gun. Now, Esther knew, store detectives shouldn't be carrying guns, and he certainly shouldn't be pulling a gun for a shoplifting experience. And so Esther quickly stepped up, grabbed the gun out of the person's hand, and slammed him towards the side of the entryway, where he hit the wall and slid down, ending up on his behind. He started to cry, and Esther yelled at him, "What the heck were you thinking? You don't shoot somebody. You don't pull a gun on somebody for shoplifting." Meanwhile, the Gothic girl had met her boyfriend across the drive, and they were coming back in. They were having fun. They were totally oblivious to what had just happened. And as they came back to the entryway, the man yelled at the girl that she had ran out of the store, and he thinks she had shoplifted something. And the girl said, "What?" She's totally confused. She said, "I got a call from my boyfriend. He had just picked up tickets to go see our favorite group. And we're going to go see this Gothic band. We've got prime tickets." And the man, the detective, started to cry and seem lost. He said, "I didn't want this job. They forced this job on me." He said, "I'm smaller than most people. That's why I went out and bought a gun. I can't handle this. I didn't want this job." And at that moment, several people came out. The store owner, Mr. Polo, came out and asked what was happening. And Esther spoke to him and said, "Your employee here pulled a gun and was going to shoot at that girl, thinking that she had done some shoplifting. But she had just left the store in a hurry because her boyfriend was outside waiting for her." Mr. Polo looked at the man crying, still sitting on his behind. Then he turned to his two employees and said, take him to the hospital for a psych evaluation, and let me know immediately, as soon as possible, what the status is. They picked up the man and ushered him off. He turned to Esther then and said, "What is your name?" "I am Mr. Polo. I own this store." Esther said, "My name is Ester Saint, and this is my aunt, Brandy Saint. We were just shopping in your store, and we're about to leave when I noticed your detective following this girl." He said, "Esther, would you mind following me for a few minutes if you're not in a hurry, and coming upstairs with me?" So Esther turned to Aunt Brandy, and Brandy said, I don't care. So they went with Mr. Polo upstairs. He used a special key card to get into a private elevator just inside of the entryway. And on the third floor, where his office was, he said to his secretary, he wrote a note to her and said, "I'll be in my office. Come in as soon as possible." And so Esther and Brandy went into his office with Mr. Polo, and he said, "This could have ended really badly for everybody." He said, "The public never would have forgiven the store for having shot somebody that they thought was stealing and wasn't. And on top of that, my employee probably wouldn't have been able to live with himself." So he said, "Esther, I'm really, really appreciative that you stepped up and prevented this terrible mistake from happening." At that moment, his secretary came in and left something with him. And then he said, "Esther and Brandy, I'm going to have to go to the hospital now and be with my employee and help him through this crisis. But I want to thank you, Esther, for preventing this problem and for stepping forward. And here's a little appreciation gift that I'd like you to have." And he gave her a debit card for Marco Polo's in the sum of $30,000. And he told her to please use it any way she wants and to share it any way she wants if she prefers. And at that moment he left, and his secretary smiled at the girls and said, "Is there anything that I can help you two with?" Esther said, "Well, yes. Do you have a girls' room on this floor?" And the secretary smiled and laughed, and "Yes, we do." So they went down to the girls' room, and eventually they went back to the main floor entryway, and the secretary again reinforced the fact that she understood what Mr. Polo had said, that a really terrible catastrophe had been diverted today and avoided, and that they wanted to thank Esther for this. So at that point, Esther and Brandy, they left the store did a little bit more browsing around in the mall, and decided to call it quits for the day. Again, Esther was feeling rather tired from jet lag and wasn't certain what she could or how long she could stay awake, but she suggested again to her aunt that they should find something to eat. And so now their next stop was going to be for dinner. Find some place to eat for dinner.